Hello, welcome to Look East.
Coming up in the programme tonight, a warning that families could suffer after new research finds funding for children's services has been cut by a quarter. Hello, first tonight, leading charities say thousands of children are at risk of falling into neglect and abuse after a new report found funding for children's services in this region has been cut by more than a quarter.
Since 2010, the area that has experienced the biggest cut is Southend, where spending has dropped by £270 per child. In Norfolk, where the County Council plans to shut 38 of its 53 children's centres, this figure was around £200. It was a similar amount in Essex, and in Suffolk spending fell by £150 per child. Lee Milner has spent the day in Southend speaking to families who rely on children's services and see them as a lifeline.
Kirsty Ann is a single mother with 3 children. By bringing them here 2 days a week, she's had time to go out and pursue her dream job, becoming a nurse.
I'll probably be on benefits, until they're 5 or over, which I don't want to do. I want to become a nurse now, pursue my career, so if this wasn't here, I would probably be sitting at home on my sofa doing nothing.
There are 9 centres like this one across Southend, giving free advice on things like breastfeeding, nutrition.
We also do parenting programmes that's supporting parents with perhaps challenging behaviour or just with parenting in general.
Here in Southend, funding for children's services has been cut by 35%. The National Children's Bureau says local services are verging on a crisis.
This is leading to a vicious cycle where local authorities have to spend more and more on crisis intervention, leaving less and less available for early intervention. This vicious cycle is driving to the point of bankruptcy, and children themselves are having to go through some pretty awful conditions before the state steps in to help.
But Councillor Helen Boyd says children here won't be affected.
We are very creative and we are determined to use our available resources, which are considerable.
But there must be a point where you can't crunch those numbers anymore.
There is a risk that, along with adult social care, that sooner or later we're not going to be able to stretch the budgets far enough.
This place could be a solution. A Better Start Southend is a 10-year, £40 million programme funded by the National Lottery to help ease the pressure on children's services, helping mothers like Kayleigh learn new skills and become what's known as a parent champion.
It was just to do a little bit more for my little boy rather than just sitting at home and isolating myself. It gave me that opportunity to go out and do more with him, to give him a better life.
You said there, you used the word isolating. Is it isolating?
To be a parent, sometimes it can be. Depends on the situation, but with all the services that are available now, it's not as isolating as it has been.
Last year, 784 families used this centre, and that number looks set to rise as funding continues to be cut. Lee Milner, BBC Look East in Southend.
Well, Jeff Banks is a director of A Better Start Southend, the organisation we saw in Lee's report. He joins us live now. You're lottery funded rather than state funded. Is it right that you should be filling in these gaps for services in children?
Well, yes, it's an interesting question, but to be honest, I don't think it's about using lottery funding to replicate or replace services that should have been provided by public authorities. What we're really about doing in A Better Start Southend is bringing together organisations working health, education, social care, alongside the communities and families and those people that we want to support, to really find the most creative and imaginative ways of developing new services, to test and learn new approaches. And all of the projects that we are developing and delivering, without exception, would not go ahead were it not for the generosity of the National Lottery players. And we're very fortunate here in Southend to have a long-term, substantial investment from the National Lottery Community Fund, which is enabling us to really try out new things and really test new approaches. And then when we've shown that they're successful, we can turn to our partners in health, education, social care and look to them to then roll out and replicate those services themselves.
But we've heard there
using
that
their own resources.
We've heard there that the state funding for children's services has gone down by £270 per child in Southend. I mean, that must have had a significant effect on the services that are provided by the state.
I think certainly. I mean, there's no, as Helen Boyd, Councillor Boyd said, you know, certainly it will have an impact. But if partners can work together to look at imaginative new ways of working, then we can really actually make some major progress. And the key thing for us, and one of the things that I think is going to be important for the future, is bringing together the service providers, so people who are experts because of their qualification or their profession, with those who are experts by experience, so parents and the community, and making sure that they come together as equal partners to try and find the very best way to innovate and find new solutions. And I think that's really proving to be successful here.
We heard in Leigh's report of the problem that families cut adrift can end up in crisis and then need more help from the state. What kind of crisis are we talking about?
Well, I think we have to be absolutely focused on prevention, and I think that's key. And parents, we know that if they get into trouble and they have difficulty raising their children, they can fall into needing very high level and very expensive public services in health and in social care. And really we want to ensure that they get the best start in life, much as the name of our programme of Better Start Southend implies, so that they don't actually have to fall into those more stressful and more urgent situations where they need that sort of support.
Jeff.
And really we are all of us focused on one thing, and that is ensuring that Southend can be the absolutely best place in the country to bring up children and to be a parent.
Jeff, thanks.
And once we've tested those new ways, we'll roll that out.
Thank you very much. We have to leave it there. Thanks for your time.